In the beginning of the crash, Hoover feared that if the American people lost confidence in business, the state of the economy would worsen. Shanty towns, referred to as Hoovervilles, sprung out in cities across the country, including Seattle, St. Louis, and even New York Central Park, a result of the Depression and increasing percentage of unemployment. Hoover began by lowering income taxes, hoping if citizens spent less on their earnings, they might be more interested to invest in the stock market or even purchase products. He was also concerned that the result of the financial panic would mean that businessmen would cut employee wages in order to cut costs. Hoover knew this would have a negative effect on the economy, so he staged a series of meetings with the top business executives in the nation. Hoover requested that the workers' wages would stay exactly the same. For the most part, the executives agreed and pledged not to lower workers' wages. He believed that improving industry was an important part of ending the Depression. If industry grew, more jobs would be available, and people would be able to spend more money.
Tremendous crowds which you see gathered outside the stock exchange are due to the greatest crash in the history of the New York Stock Exchange.
There's no doubt that the greatest myth about the crash of 1929 is that it caused the Great Depression of 1930-33. Actually, the two were not that closely related. The stock market crashed in October 1929. The crash was over by early November, and by 1930, April, the market had recovered almost to where it was before the crash started. The Depression itself was caused when there were a lot of bank failures in the United States, and the Federal Reserve did very little to prevent those bank failures.
But in October 1929, the Wall Street bubble burst.
I was taught that the stock market crash caused the Depression. I think it makes a good story. The newspapers were full of headlines. Variety magazine here in New York had a headline saying, "Wall Street lays an egg." The media blew that into, things are really so bad that investors, bankers, brokers are jumping out of the windows on Wall Street. Sometimes in life, we have to unlearn things that we were pretty sure were true. Just because something comes after another thing doesn't mean that the other thing caused it.
Interesting times for America. What happened was people thought that it would be a good idea to invest their entire life savings on the government, and others bought stock on credit. On Black Tuesday, when the stock market plummeted, people started to have tremendous fear, and the economy also plummeted. This was one of the main reasons why this country went into a depression. Black Tuesday was also known as the Great Wall Street Crash of 1929. After World War I, the United States went into a new era. People started to take their savings out of banks and put it under their mattresses and invest it. Many invested in the stock market because they were told that if they invested, they would get their money back plus interest. Also, this seemed risky because people still did it because they seemed secure and they might get rich. However, this does not work for most people because some people did not have enough money, so when they got their money back from the government, they owed the bank more than what they had, so they had to get stuff which is called a margin call, where they would have to pay the bank back the money they gave them.
John Dillinger, public enemy number one, was probably one of the most famous of all bank robbers. Dillinger was in his 20s when he was convicted of robbing an elderly grocer. They put him away from 8 to 10 years, and this turned him into a hardened criminal. One time, Dillinger had helped 5 of his friends escape from the Indiana State Prison. When he was housed in the Lima, Ohio jail, they returned the favor, showing up, massacring his lawmen, ending up helping him escape from Lima, shooting the sheriff in the process. Dillinger's gang was different from other bank robbing gangs because they were very careful in their preparation. Sometimes they would use a rouse and say that they were shooting a movie and wanted to scope the place out, and people believed them. Once Dillinger took a piece of wood and a razor and carved the wood to look like a gun and colored it black with shoe polish and used this to get past dozens of guards. He escaped the state line, which was a federal crime, and brought President Hoover into the situation, which was later known as the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Dillinger was hiding in Chicago with his friend named Anna Sage. He died when a trap was set by him by a man named Melvin Purvis, an FBI agent, and the Indiana State Police. Anna Sage, also notoriously known as the Lady in Red, set him up by inviting him to the Biograph Theater to watch a movie. When he came out of the theater, Dillinger was gunned down. He died July 22, 1934, and he was 31.